Hello, welcome back to part 2 of commonly confused words. Follow along with me, and this video again will include words that are commonly confused. And what I've done is I've included the words, I've given you a definition, then I've written a sentence with each of the words, and then I've tried to incorporate both the words within one sentence, so you can see the different ways that these commonly confused words are used. So follow along with me. The first two words that I want to look at are farther and further. They're almost the same spelling, except farther is with the A and further has the U. Farther indicates space and distance. Let's look at an example. He walked 2 miles farther than I did. So the distance that he went was greater than yours, so you use farther. Further, with the U, means greater in degree, quantity, or time. It also means moreover and in addition to. So the word furthermore comes from that, in addition to. And I'll show you that in a sentence in a second. We will discuss this issue further at a later date. That means we'll discuss it in a greater degree. We'll discuss it more at a later date. Furthermore, which has the word further in it, would be used if I said to you, you came late to class. Furthermore, you missed the test. So you would be joining those ideas with the word furthermore, meaning in addition to. Furthermore means in addition to. So I've used the two words in one sentence. If we walk a little farther, meaning distance, together, we'll have time to discuss our homework further, means in more depth, in greater degree. So that's how those words are used. The next two words are fewer and less, and let's look at them. Fewer refers to number and things you can actually count. So there are fewer people in the class today than there were last week. Because you can count how many there are, you'd use fewer. Less refers to a quantity and it's uncountable. You're unable to count it. I have less homework in my math class than in my English class. If you were to know how many math questions you had, you would say, I have 5 homework questions in math, but you're not saying that. You're just saying I have less homework in one class than the other. So it's a quantity, but you're not counting how much it is, so you would use the word less. And I've used the two in a sentence. The fewer times you attempt to do this, the less chance you'll have to succeed. Now I've also pointed out that you can use the word less with units of measurement or money. And let's look at an example. Our house is worth less today than it was 3 years ago. So it's less referring to the value of it. And it's uncountable because it's just a value. Or you could say, I have less than $3 in my bank account. Again, you're referring to an amount of money, so you would use the word less. Two other words that are frequently confused are the words imply and infer. Imply means you're hinting or you're insinuating. You're not stating directly. So a speaker will imply. When he's saying something, a speaker will imply, makes an implication. Example, my father tried to imply that I never do my homework. So he's not just saying to you, you never do your homework. It's not, that would just be a statement. What he's saying is an example of an implication that he's implying. He might say to you, if your marks could be a lot higher if you tried more. So maybe he's implying if you did more homework, if you were more devoted, then you would have higher marks. So he's just implying without actually telling you you're never doing your homework. And in this next one, infer means you draw a conclusion, and a hearer infers. So it's to draw a conclusion. So a speaker will imply, but the person listening will be the inferer. So an example, I listened to his speech, or as I listened to his speech, I could infer, so I could conclude that he was planning on stepping down from his position. Let's look at an example with the to in one sentence. At the meeting, he implied, so he hinted, that the workload was getting very heavy. But I heard that, so I could infer from what he said, I could hear and infer that this meant he was going to quit the job. So you could conclude from what the person says that they're probably planning on quitting the job. Next is later and latter. Later has one T and latter has two. Later's one, latter two. Later means more recent, and it refers to time. I prefer if you come over later rather than earlier. Latter, the double T, means the second of two. Jim was unsure if he wanted to take French or Spanish, but he decided on the latter. What that means is on the second one, the second of the two, the latter would be Spanish. And an example with both in a sentence, he could choose between roast beef and fish, but he chose the latter, which would mean the fish. The latter is the last one mentioned, since he didn't like eating a heavy dinner later than 9 o'clock p.m., later referring to time. Next is lose and loose, also quite commonly misused. Lose has one O and loose has two. Lose means to misplace or to no longer have. It's a verb. I do not want to lose the essay writing competition. So it's the verb. Loose is not tight, and it's an adjective. The opposite of being tight is it's loose. The sweater was very loose after I lost 10 pounds. Using them both in a sentence, so on that loose button, or you will lose the verb, you will lose it. You'll lose the button. May be and maybe. Okay, now one is two words and the other's one word. Let's look at the difference. When you write it as two words, may and be, it's a verb and it means you're able or you can. It's the verb. Maybe as one word means perhaps or possibly, and it's an adverb. So one is a verb, and when it's one word, it's an adverb. When you're using it as two words, this may be our last chance to apply for the loan means that it's able to. We can. It's the last chance that we can have. Maybe it will snow tomorrow means perhaps as one word. I thought that we could maybe, meaning perhaps, go to the movie theater this afternoon. For this may be our last chance to see the movie on the big screen, meaning it's probably the last chance that we can. Next is words personal and personnel. Personnel, P-E-R-S-O-N-A-L, means private or relating to an individual, like a personal matter. I told him it was a personal matter and I would not discuss it with him. It's relating to me. It's personal. I don't want to talk about it. Personnel, a lot of offices, big companies have personnel departments. They're people who are employed by a company or organization. I had to go to the personnel department for my job interview. Using the to in a sentence, I had a personal matter, meaning about myself, to discuss about a job change. So I went to talk to the manager of the personnel department. So this one's pronounced personnel and the other one's personnel. Moving along, quiet, quite, and quit. Take a look at how they're spelled. Quiet, Q-U-I-E-T, means no noise, peaceful, calm. I asked the class to be quiet during the lecture. Quite means completely, truly, really, or to a certain extent. I am quite certain that he is late again. That's referring to really certain. If you want to refer to an extent, he can be quite rude at times. So quite means an extent there. So it can have two meanings. And quit means to stop or give up. I want to quit smoking next month as it's getting harder and harder for me to climb the stairs. Using them all three words in one sentence, my manager became very quiet, silent, when I mentioned that I may quit my job, but I'm not quite sure, like you're not completely certain, if she was angry at me or just surprised. Now this one is very common error in writing. A lot of people mix these words up, than and then. Than is a word that's used in comparison. Example, she is 3 inches taller than I am. So than is always a comparison. Then, T-H-E-N, means next. For example, it was then time for him to make a speech to the waiting crowd. In the same sentence, I then, meaning next, I then told him that I was happier than I had ever been before. You're making a contrast. You're happier now than ever before. Use and used to. Use means to make use of, and used to means you're familiar with, you're accustomed, you're in the habit. Examples, I'm going to make use of my new vacuum cleaner to clean the house today. Or I used to cut the grass with an electric mower, means you were in the habit, you were familiar with, it's something you used to do in the past. An example with the to, I am used to cleaning the house every Friday, so it's a habit of yours, you're in the habit. But this week I'm going to use a local cleaning service, meaning to make use of. Were, we're, and where, also commonly confused. Were is the past tense of are. Today, he is. Yesterday, they were. So it's the past tense of the verb. We were late for the opening act of the play. We're is we plus are. It's the contraction we are. I think that we are buying a new car in the spring. And this is where, refers to place where. I am not sure where the new mall is. Using the mall in a sentence, last week we couldn't decide if we were going, there's your verb, on a vacation to a hot climate. But we're, meaning we are, now certain where we will travel and the date we will be leaving. And the final commonly confused word is woman and women. Woman is female singular, meaning one woman, one person. Women is the plural of woman. It means more than one. It's the plural noun. Example, I saw the woman, meaning one. I saw that one woman who works at the grocery store. Or the next one would be the plural. Many women walk to raise money and awareness for breast cancer. Using them in one sentence, the woman, singular, who lives next door to me is the president of a women's movement. It's made up of a group of women that promotes nutrition and good health for women, meaning a group, more than one, of all ages. So there are a lot of commonly confused words. Please learn how to spell them, how to use them properly, and they will greatly increase your vocabulary. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you again soon.